Welcome to Get Moving TV. I'm Dr. Chris Landon and I serve as your host. Here in Ventura County, we have an incredible healthcare system spread throughout the county, and central to that is Ventura County Medical Center. We're seeing more and more focus, especially with the Affordable Care Act, on outcomes. How does the care actually result in a good outcome? Patients not having to return to the hospital, patients who are safe in the hospital, who don't have falls, patients who don't have pressure ulcers, patients who don't have DVTs, don't have clots in their legs. So anything we can do to get a step ahead of that is really resolved on humans, and humans are fallible. One of the problems I was trying to solve is after someone is intubated in an intensive care unit, what can we do to prevent the other effects, the problems with urinary tract infections from catheters being in, from ventilator tubes being in too long, and the whole medical community is looking at this, and we're looking at this at Ventura County Medical Center as well. One of the solutions that came up, and I'm part of the Intelligent Hospital Association, is turning to technology. And so with me today is Eric Williams from Leaf Technologies. So Eric, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
So as I was searching for a solution to one particular problem, and that's hospital-associated pressure ulcers, I came across your company, and unfortunately the president of the company was flying down, is stuck due to a technical generator error up in San Francisco, which seems almost ironic that here we are trying to be a technology-filled society. So let's just start actually with the technology, and then we'll get back to how you got into your job and kind of the arc of your own life. So what's the name of your president of your company?
The president of our company is Dr. Barrett Larsen.
So Dr. Barrett Larsen, what made him think that he needed to search out a technological solution to this?
Well, essentially, he was doing residency at Stanford University, and he had a patient that he came across that had a 40% burn wound on their body. And unfortunately, the patient succumbed to sepsis as a result of a pressure ulcer. So in actuality, the patient did survive the burn wounds, lived for a little while, and then he went back to check up on her, and she had sepsis, and then soon after passed away. And
so that's what annoys us as physicians, and that's where we try and seek solutions. But we don't have degrees in electrical engineering. We really are pushing the STEM, the whole science, technology, engineering, mathematics in our schools. And so how did he deal with this frustration? Here he saved somebody's life who has 40% of his body burned, and yet something as simple as being turned every 2 hours, 20 degrees, didn't occur. That patient got a pressure ulcer just from their body lying there, decreased blood supply. So how did he deal with that? I mean, did you go home and did you give up medicine? I mean,
no, actually he had an idea. Patient wearables is actually where our society is. It's the new thing. It's the really hot thing. So essentially he had an idea that he could use accelerometers. Actually, he and Daniel Shin were both in residency, and they both created this product. And essentially, they knew about accelerometers. Accelerometers are in our cell phone. That's what makes the screen go side to side, et cetera. And so they thought, why not apply this to patient care to help save lives? And thus, Leaf was born.
So, one of the things, again, people are human and take coffee breaks, and we don't try not to Facebook. We really want to make sure people are paying attention. Sometimes they're just so overwhelmed that they just can't get that done. And patients weigh more now too. They're trying to be a 5'2" nurse who weighs 100 pounds and trying to turn a 300-pound person. And we have to make all these new adjustments. All our wheelchairs are wider. Our CAT scans have to be bigger. MRI scans bigger. So how does this work on? How does it remind the nurse to do this?
Well, essentially, everything functions through this sensor here. The sensor actually communicates with our wireless network every 10 seconds. So this sensor actually adheres to the patient's upper torso, communicates information about a patient's position, orientation, as well as movement. So it'll monitor them on their right side, their back, left side, upright positions, as well as prone. That information then goes to the nurse's station, and it's associated with a timer for that specific patient. So it lets the nurse know through a color system as well as time when it's time to turn the patient, or if there's a turn even coming up, for example.
So it seems so simple. I mean, I'm sure everybody does a perfect job. Have you looked at any hospitals around the Stanford area? I mean, when they start these things out, I'm sure they strapped their smartphone to their chest to see how things worked. We did that with we have a device that beats the mucus out of children with cystic fibrosis. And I just stuck my smartphone in and did a little program, and we could see whether or not they were being shaken. So any local hospitals, they just do it at Stanford or?
As a matter of fact, we've did our initial studies at El Camino Hospital in Northern California. It was a multi-month study, and where we established a baseline of 64% turn compliance. Once they intervened with our product, it went up to 98%.
Look, of course, numbers like that get to be unbelievable, but now you've got a way to document it, and I think what's important is it helps. It's the feedback for them too. We have all kinds of programs. Check this box on this blackboard, or educational events. But here with technology, finally, it's kind of like having a step counter. You start to know how many steps you take.
Right. We come with a philosophy that if you can monitor it, you can manage it. So without a system like ours, we've looked at various studies, and in those studies we see that turn compliance, for example, ranges between 29% and 66%. But for a majority of our customers or clients, we get them at least in the low 90s.
So for this hospital-associated pressure ulcers, now we can take that part off the table in terms of what we're worried about. Now, one of the things that I'd seen from you was that the director of nursing could see all 10 or 20 stations at once and maybe see a pattern to things as well. So it's, in terms of management, how else are you guys looking at managing it, taking this information not just as, time to turn, but what other things, interventions can be made?
As far as interventions, it definitely gives hospital management, for example, the ability to see if they have enough staff on the floor, for example. Yeah. So they can use our reports to see if compliance is dipping in certain areas, which is a problem, and have additional staff come in and help the staff turn those patients. But beyond that, as far as patient metrics, HapUse is just the beginning of where we're going with this particular product. With this same device, there's different patient metrics that will come out of it. The very next one that we plan on is mobility, patient mobility or ambulation. So there's certain protocols, like for example, if a patient has surgery, sometimes physicians do want that patient to walk around a certain amount of time, and at least with our system, that can be monitored as well as documented, but the great thing is the nurse wouldn't have to chart it. It would just go right to the patient's electronic medical records chart.
We're doing work with adherence. We put a Bluetooth device in a medication delivery device. These patients may be 100 miles away. I know whether or not they're taking their medicine 3 times a day. And when I talk to them, I take it on Friday. Well, I need to take it 3 times a day. So we call this our machine-on-machine mankind interface. And if you spell that out, it spells mommy. And sometimes if they're not compliant enough, I call their mommies up and make them go in. So the director of nursing can really get an idea. And sometimes it might just be change of shift or medications having to be delivered. And with physical therapy, they were too tired to get out of bed and the like. So it sounds like you've got a great device. How's it going? How long has the company been around, and what kind of impact are you having in Northern and Southern California?
Well, basically, our company's been around for a couple years, but we've been selling for a little over 1.5 years, and we have had quite a few installations. We do have some accounts here in Southern California, as well as Northern California, and some in the Northwest as well, the Seattle, Washington area. So we're doing pretty good to start out.
Well, obviously, we're going to be doing a trial at my hospital, and I think we're pretty committed. It pretty much sells itself. What does something like this cost?
Well, essentially, our product, what we ask is per patient, $199, but that includes all installation of our system. So that's just ongoing. But when it comes to price, that's just what we ask. But we work on a case-by-case basis.
Well, in a hospital where an aspirin costs $199, it seems like. What kind of savings are there?
Oh, substantial. When you think about pressure ulcers, they could get literally in the tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. So they could be quite expensive for a hospital, and that's something that the hospital would have to pay for. So when you think about the cost of this particular device, protecting the patient, thinking about them having a nice quality visit. You don't want any adverse events like a pressure ulcer popping up, because that makes it rough on the patient as well as their family, because it takes a long time for pressure ulcers to heal. So when you think about the value that you're bringing to the table, this really doesn't cost all that much.
Exactly. Well, thank you for that piece there. Well, how did you get in this business? I'm always looking. This is an adult community education. We have people who just are still trying to find themselves, what career they may end up learning to Photoshop or learning to run cameras. Or how did you end up where you are? Where did you get your degree?
I graduated from UC Santa Barbara, just up the road here, with a degree in business economics. Came out, worked at a payroll and tax company, and then I noticed a lot of people springboarding into this thing called medical sales. And there were certain great benefits associated with it, so that really attracted me, especially because I've always been into watching surgical shows, for example. Blood or things of that nature don't gross me out. It's actually, the human body is fascinating. So actually, while working on my business degree, I had one class where I did have the privilege of working on cadavers, things of that nature. So it was really exciting. So hospital plus, I kind of have a enterprising or outgoing personality.
Yes.
Love business. So it's just a marriage between the two, business as well as medicine, combined. I just love the setting, so it works well for me.
I know there's a process with the FDA too. This whole thing around Theranos and the girl who just seemed to know everybody and knew it was on Sand Hill Road and persuaded Walgreen that her magical test on one drop of blood would work, and it turned out they were sneaking the blood off to real machines. So the whole startup company stuff is pretty tough too. So how are they in terms of their funding and how are they doing?
We have some wonderful private investors. So as far as funding, that part is great. The biggest challenge, I think, is the fact that we're new. So, just getting our name out there and working to get through some of these committees. And, since it is IT related, there can be some challenges getting past those teams. But one thing to know is our system is very easy to install, and it plays well with other things that are in the patient rooms. We haven't had any issues whatsoever interacting with other machines.
I'm looking certainly for an Internet of Things that helps me find my way around the hospital too. So it's a great technology. Well, Eric, thank you so much for your time. I'm sorry your president couldn't be here, but you've done such an excellent job. I really feel like I know the company.
Well, thank you.
So thank you for coming.
Appreciate your time.
Well, Ventura, we're going to be right back. You're going to hear more about how Ventura innovates. It's not just happening at Stanford.